Hey, welcome back to MixNSingle, the podcast. We're happy to have you back. Today we have a wonderful, wonderful surprise for you guys. We'll be talking about the end game. How do we get there from here? Talking about marriage and the journey to commitment with none other than Kalan Laws and his beautiful wife, Kira Laws. I have with me today our co-host, One, the CEO, and Tony Massey.
What up, though? I'm geeking.
Yeah,
I'm geeking
excited.
that we got the. This is the first time I've ever been excited about the law being in the building. I'm geeking.
Listen.
No doubt.
So I hope you guys are tuned in. Welcome back. And we are just going to talk a little bit, let them introduce themselves a little bit. Tell us a little bit about yourselves and what you guys got going on.
What's up, y'all? It's your man, Kalan Laws. I go by Senior Wapo. Go to Instagram. Follow me right there. SENOYGUAPO 713. Holla at your boy. I'm excited to be here. Former educator, faculty member at Texas Southern University, current media host, menswear designer, stylist, and influencer. And I am in love with this woman to my left.
Come on. I always sit to the right, so this is different.
Yeah, it is.
This is different.
Oh,
no, you're fine. I always introduce him to the person to my left. So all right now. Okay, so I am Kira Laws, and I am let's see, I don't know. Follow me on Instagram at the Modern Day Cindy. That's Cindy with the I, not a Y. And I am an educator currently. I'm also an attorney. I teach at the University of Houston downtown, business law and business communications and ethics and commercial law and all those other beautiful things. Yeah. And also, I'm just happy to be here. You know, I have the privilege of being able to do life with my husband over here. We actually build and inspire one another, build together and inspire, and just sow seeds for the next generation. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, we in business together. Quite, I don't know, 4 companies, I guess.
We have a lot going on.
4 companies plus we got 2 little babies.
Yes,
4 companies, 2 babies, and 1 us.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Come on,
So
somebody.
tell me a little bit about how you guys met. What was your courtship like, or was there any courtship, or?
Well, I started.
Okay.
I've heard this story.
Yes, we actually met at church.
There's 2 perspectives.
There's always 2 perspectives.
It's always 2 perspectives.
So the backbone is always right,
Right,
but the
right,
experience may be a little different.
Yeah,
Details
yeah.
are different.
The
So,
details.
yeah, the
may
details.
differ.
But we did meet at church.
Okay.
But we both were coming out of situationships when we were at church, right?
Yeah.
And so we literally, the pastor said, you know what? So many times on Sundays we worship next to people we don't know. How about you introduce yourself to your neighbor?
Turn to your neighbor. And
Turn
we've
to your
heard
neighbor.
the turn to
Wait,
your
what
neighbor.
pastor was this?
Kirby John.
Kirby John Caldwell.
Kirby John Caldwell. I was
Shout out
filling
to
in
the
family
village.
and I was visiting.
KBC.
Visiting. Okay, because
I was-
I'm like, wait a minute, wait.
Exactly.
I missed-
No,
okay,
that
but
was
Right, I
go.
was visiting and she was my neighbor. So that's how we met.
And-
we literally met in church.
And interesting, it's so funny that that particular day, and I have to put this in there because there are women out there that always ask me this question. So that particular morning, I remember feeling very strongly that I needed to look a certain way.
Come on,
Oh,
Holy
wow.
Ghost. Come on,
I needed
Holy
to
Ghost.
dress a certain way.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I mean, it wasn't, and it wasn't. You know, I think sometimes we kind of get. I don't know, as people, we sometimes don't think it's that deep, but you have to trust your gut. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, God under tummy. You got to trust that. So, you know, he's always speaking. So I felt that I had to wear, it was a very specific outfit that I felt led that I was supposed to put on that day. I walked in, the aisle that I sat on happened to be empty. He happened to be the only person on that aisle, which was funny.
Wow.
And it was a service that I would never, right. It was a service I wouldn't normally go to.
Oh, wow.
It wasn't my normal service. It was a different service, and the only reason I was there on that particular day is because I was going to be volunteering, and so I was like, let me go step into service for a couple of minutes, you know, listen to the word before this volunteer meeting starts, and then you know what I mean. I was like, I had it all in my head, so it was timing. You know what I mean? It was timing, and when I met him, it was weird because it was a long story. It was a long, short story, but it's beautiful. But when he said, turn to your neighbor, and I turned, and I was like, okay. And I did extra because I shook hands. I said my name, and I'm like, what am I doing? I don't know. I do all that. Usually just say, you know, hey, how you doing? How you doing?
Yeah.
You were compelled.
I was compelled, and in my head, I'm like, I don't be talking to people like this in church, you know. And even when that little howdy doody time started and ended, when I had to get up and go to my meeting, I was like, oh, I'm about to go to, I don't want you to think I'm stepping out on church. And I walked away like, what was that about? Like, why did I even give him all that information? It was really weird, y'all.
It was
but
necessary.
But in my head, I was like, what? It was totally not me.
It was necessary.
Listen, she was wearing that. What she was wearing too, boy. Ooh, she was wearing that thing.
And it wasn't tight, y'all. It wasn't
No, it
short,
wasn't.
y'all.
It wasn't.
It was an impactful.
Yeah,
dress.
if you know me, you know that I'm,
impactful.
you know.
Yes.
So I guess Spirit just told you that morning when you woke up that you just need to
It,
dress
I
for your
mean,
husband
dress,
that day, huh?
dress. I mean, dress was cute. Pumps was bad. Collar was popped.
I like the idea that you went there to serve.
Yeah, I went for
I
service.
can't help
Get
but
out
think
my
of that.
head.
I can't help but think of that song "Give," and it will come
give it
back
to
to
you.
you.
Yeah.
Down, shaking
Yeah.
together, running up. And I'm a big believer.
Yeah.
And you have to be in the. We have this mindset of what can we get.
Yeah.
But we get the most when we
Right.
give, right?
Right.
So I think that's beautiful.
Regardless.
Regardless. Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's funny that you say that because at the time where most people would have been running away from church, I was running into it because I was coming from, like he said, coming out of a situation where I should have been broken.
Yes.
Right.
And I was like, my refuge had to remain. I needed to stay busy. And I was like, I need to be in a place of covering because it was not the healthiest situation to be in. And I was like, instead of me, because a lot of times, well, let me say this. I noticed that a lot of times people bounce from situation to situation instead of giving yourself time to recover.
Right.
And so for me, I was like, well, I don't need to, I'm not trying to be about that life. I really just need to focus. So I'm gonna go ahead and serve. And my way of serving at the time was with the young people. So I just, I was where I was supposed to be. I really was.
Got Kalan and Kira Laws in the building tonight. I'm
It's
so
amazing
excited
to
about
hear
this.
that, and knowing Kalan on a personal level.
This is my big sis, y'all.
Yeah.
That's my
And
big sis. I don't call her
hearing that,
Angela.
It speaks mounds to me about Kalan because I know his walk and I know who he is, and it's just like, yeah. Why, how else could it have happened?
Yeah,
so it's just, he's one of those people that has a strong spiritual walk, and I've always admired that about him.
I mean, it's definitely admirable, but this is the thing: we didn't exchange numbers at all. We just left,
we literally just met.
and that's it.
We met because we were still like in some situationships.
Yeah.
We weren't all the way done with them, right?
I think I might have been done with mine, babe.
Well, you may have been. I wasn't. And so then
I wasn't healing.
we right. So I visited again because I was still in a situationship and I ran into her
Again.
again.
Okay.
And
In a
then-
situationship.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Okay,
And I just spoke, didn't flirt. Just said, hey, how are you? What's going on? I'm gonna see you inside. Cool. All right. Boom,
And
boom, boom.
he never came inside.
And I never came inside because there was something else in the other side of the church that I wanted. Mind you, I was
with the
visiting the church.
situationship.
Okay.
And then right, she gonna keep saying that.
Because just with that, because there was the
No, it
truth.
was.
The
No,
truth, he
no,
was with the
facts.
person I didn't know. So I didn't know he was with that person. I was like, oh, hey, again, guy,
Right.
that I don't really have
And-
your phone number. And I kept it going.
And then a couple months later, we ran into each other again at a fight party
Outside of church.
outside of church.
Okay.
And someone
That's
said,
when when we exchanged numbers.
and someone said, third time's the charm. Y'all have to get each other's number.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that and the
Right.
rest is history.
And the rest is history. And there hasn't been a day that has gone by that I haven't communicated with her.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So I want to start
love
from
like that.
I want to start from the very beginning.
Do it.
Sure,
So
sure.
we know the genesis of your story, but I'd really like to know the genesis of you and how it has impacted not only your dating life but your married life.
Okay.
So my question is, who raised you, and who were the influential people in your lives, either individually or even collectively as a couple, that still impact you and have helped you through the process of dating and marriage?
Okay, so my the way I was reared, I was primarily, my parents were both were very present in my life growing up, but I spent a lot of my time here in Houston. I was kind of split because my mom moved to Houston while I was young. She started going to UTMB on a fellowship, and so I stayed in New York for a little bit, and then when my mom was kind of settled, she sent for me, and I kind of went back and forth in New York and Houston for years. This happened for years. But my parents, my dad was very present, and he instilled in me this, I guess, I knew in my head what type of man I wanted. He had to be a man that was very active in family matters. My dad in the summertime, he would take every Friday off and take us somewhere every Friday off for the whole summers, so that was like 12 weeks of daddy. I was like, I need a man that just when you think about the sowing the seeds, I was like, when I get married, the type of guy that I want is someone that's ever present with family and someone who actually not afraid to go and explore. Because my dad, and my mom both, the stories I heard about them, they were always doing something, dancing, traveling, and stuff like that. I said, so I don't want a person that is too domestic that they can't go international, and figuratively or literally. I just was like, I just can't do it, right? So growing up, my mom was she transitioned from being a New Yorker to being a Houstonian. But my mom she's more rule based. You know what I mean? So I grew up very militantly, I guess you would say. Everything had to be a certain way, a certain time. It was much more about order. Everything had to be in order. So everything with me is she's very task oriented. So it makes me very task oriented. That helped me. The combination of both my parents really helped me because both my parents came from big families, but out of all their siblings, they're the only ones that went to college, both of them. And got advanced degrees, beyond just the basic degree, not the basic, but the bachelor degree. Right. And so, that set some foundation for me. They never pushed school on me, but they were pretty much saying this is what you should do. So that wasn't, it was an expectation without saying much. But, I think that laid a lot of foundation for me because I never wanted to be in my mind. So, I guess subconsciously, I felt like if I didn't do certain things, I would become a burden. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't want to pass that on to anyone. So I was like, let me make sure I'm self-sufficient. Right. So I went straight to, undergrad. I went to undergrad, graduated in 3 years, went straight to law school, graduated in 2 years. You know what I mean? Like, in my mind, I was always on, I need to get to the next thing to be what I consider to be successful. Right. What I've learned, though, many moons later, is that success really isn't about that per se. I mean, I enjoy the acquisition of knowledge, but it's more so about peace of mind. You have to have a really strong self-worth and self-identity. You have to be able to, have some values that you can stand by. You know what I mean? Something that you don't waver on. And so I think the combination of both my parents really put that in me. I can't really say there was one or specific person outside of them that helped mold that. I had people that might have modeled other stuff in my life, but not necessarily anything that I would think changed me or challenged me in a way. I think just watching my parents and what they did not do, some things they did, acts of commission and omission, right? Some things they didn't do, I was like, okay, maybe I'm going to do this route and not necessarily that one because it probably would make me a better version of them, right? So
I can understand.
Yeah, and for me, my mother raised me. I was she was married once growing up. We weren't really that close until they got divorced. And then the church raised me, and then my coaches.
So
I gave the long answer. You gave the short.
I find it interesting that you kind of described what you were looking for based on the example that your father set. Do you feel, and you can answer this honestly without being disrespectful, I'm sure, for the people who are still looking.
Okay.
Do you feel any compromise in your current relationship with that foundation that was set? I mean, has he risen to that occasion, or are there areas that you've had to compromise?
Oh, no.
I know I put you on the spot with that question.
No, it's totally okay because I'm going to answer because I want to answer. So my dad set an example of what I really wanted and the things that I didn't want as well.
Okay.
Yes.
Because there were some things that I would not have wanted in my spouse, right? And so, yes, he has risen to the occasion and it actually surpassed it. Because I tell people all the time, people talk about this list, I'm putting right down my list of things I wanted. If I would have written a list of everything I would have wanted, I still would not have described him completely. Wow. I would have missed it. Wow. You know what I mean? I would have missed it because you don't necessarily know what you need until you see it. You know what I mean? Or until you experience it. One of the things that makes him such a good match for me is because he is so considerate. You know what I mean? He is so thoughtful. He always considers me in terms of how do I feel? What do you need? And sometimes meeting needs goes beyond just being able to provide financially for people. And so he's a need meter. You know what I mean? Like he, you know, it really does speak volumes. I think my dad, great guy, great, wonderful guy. However, there were some things that he did that I don't think necessarily my dad would have, and I can't, you know, I know about my father with the things I know. I don't know how he was personally in his relationships.
Yeah.
I just know what I see. But in terms of balance and in terms of being leveled, yes, all of that, because I, you know, am on the other end of it. So where I'm off, he's on. You know what I mean? And you need someone that can always bring it back and say, even if I'm having a bad day, he's very good at, you know, babe, I'm sorry, you know, or you good. Like sometimes you need someone to be the peace in the middle of the storm, and he's always peace. He's always peace.
I believe that.
I want to ask you guys, like, I want y'all to share with me, like, what are some of the most difficult things that you guys had to overcome in being married?
Well, I think starting off, two things, and we're very transparent. Two things. The first one was I started in the relationship with a lie. That I'd graduated college. That I was a college. That I was a graduate when I was a flunk out, because I was dealing with a lot of condemnation on my end because I was a student athlete. Had the red carpet laid out for me. You know, coach paid for 4 years, you know, and I didn't finish. And so, you know, I had to figure things out from there. Secondarily, once we got engaged, I cheated. I stepped out, and so we had to deal with that. And so there was a lot of deception that I was coming out of based upon how I was raised. When I talk about it, I was raised by my mom, my coaches, and the church. Even within all that, I was still seeking validation, and I saw it through women. Like most guys,
right?
Especially most successful. You know, I was very successful in track and field. I never had an issue in terms of in the classroom. That was easy for me, and I garnered, as I got older, a favorable reaction from women. So I took advantage of that favorable reaction from women, and in all of that, I still had enough gumption and had enough understanding to know that I didn't want that, but I was stuck in a cycle.
Yeah,
and she was able to see past that. That, okay, yeah, he was stuck in the cycle, and this was bigger than me. And we both believe that the reason she was able to see that is because we abstained while we were courting. You know, our wedding morning, actually, because we had a midnight wedding, so we were tired after we got married. So our wedding morning is when we consummated the vows. So we started it. We've had some other hiccups, but I think when you start that way, you would think that you would go, you know, it would be a downward spiral, straight vertical, but it really wasn't. Yeah, you know.
Yeah, because I think, like you said, part of the reason why I believe that we were able to power through some of those missteps is because of the fact that we were not intimate before we got married. I think I always tell people, when you put skin in the game, you feel like you lose something when stuff doesn't work out. So people are on the defense, you know. I said, especially as a woman, you feel like once you have shared yourself with someone, that person owes you, you know. And ideally, y'all owe each other more, to not sacrifice yourself every time. You know what I mean? So I think he and I, when we got together, like you said, he was in a situation, I was in a situation. So when we actually got together, we were like, this is what we want to do. You know, we want to not continue repeating cycles. You know, repeating cycles. I was like, ideally, my goal, you know, if I'm dating for something. My end goal is to be somewhere. I don't want to date anybody just for the sake of saying I'm with them. You know what I mean? I was like, and part of that is me, you know, I had to learn quickly how to say I'm not interested with, you know, I'm not dragging nobody along down this road. And if I am interested in you, these are the things I'm non-negotiable, and sex was one of them. Right. So I think that helped us.
Then real quick, another one. I had to learn, like I had a lot of growing up to do, man. Yeah. You know, I was very, very mature in a lot of areas, and then I was a kid in other areas, right? I mean, I was 25 when we got together, so I was a kid anyway. But I had to really figure out how to be her man and not a man. Right.
Amen.
Right. You know what I mean?
Love language is so important.
You know, and it was beyond the love language. I had to, you know, listen, my folks are from Mississippi, Memphis and Mississippi. Old Southern people, get your butt up, you know, you this is what a man is, right? And so I had to, I was undoing 25, 26 years of that. And it wasn't honestly until year 5 that we really started to hit our sweet spot because I began to really get comfortable in being the man that she needed, not the man that I was told I was supposed to be.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to, I don't want to get caught up on the bad things that happen.
Sure,
I also
sure.
want to talk about the joys in your marriage, but I do want to, go back a little bit and ask, because he was very transparent about sharing how there was, how he stepped out in the engagement before the marriage part. So how were you able to move past that, even because you guys hadn't went there? How were you able to move past that in knowing and having the security that you needed to know that wasn't going to carry on over into your marriage?
It was a few things. So number one, like I said, number one was I was mature enough to understand that when someone has sex with somebody, it's the issue. And for this particular situation, the issue wasn't me. He wasn't. The flaw wasn't in me.
Right.
It wasn't an assault against who I was to him. It was a situation where he had. It was a familiar thing. It was an ex, and it was it was his moment of weakness because he was flagellating or going back and forth over him not feeling like he was good enough for me.
Understandable.
But he was good enough for her because
Yeah,
I'm
I
here
understand.
and there. You see what I'm saying? So
You're
it was a level up that he was going back and forth with.
Yeah.
And so I think when I found out about it and we had a conversation with it, I think I might have scared and shocked him at the same time. And I was like,
She was too calm.
because I was like, this is not about me. I said, this is about you. I said, I'm committed to being your friend, because we would always say friends. I said, I'm committed to being your friend and walking you through this situation. I said, this is not about me. I said, because this is not assault against me. I don't feel like you did that to me. I said, what you did just hurt you. On our path. I said, because I'm not going to hang that over your head, because I understand where you were and are right now. I think the mature piece for me was, I think sometimes, be quite honest, a lot of people can't make that decision because they are actually doing the same thing.
Right.
Like so if if it was me and I was his sexual partner and he had sex with someone else, I would feel like he violated me.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's kind of like, why would you go and I'm here and
because y'all hadn't had sex, he had only violated himself.
Yeah, because I'm like, you're not hurting me. Like, that's not, and I knew it wasn't to hurt me too, because I'm like, this is something so big, so much bigger. And so we went through we went through challenge, and like I told him, I said, I know that you're the person I'm supposed to be with. That doesn't mean it's not going to come without challenge, because marriages are attacked all the time, before, during, and after. I'm like, people, it's always going to be under attack. I said, so we need to evaluate this from what it really is. I said, this was an attack. I said, for us not to make it to the altar, for us to start viewing each other sideways. I said, so we need to go through this. I said, so, we just had to kind of talk through it. I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't really mad. I was more concerned. I was like, because this can't be, this not, I know this is not your character, but this can't be. So we have to set up some parameters, and we had to set up some parameters. Boundaries was necessary. Boundaries with family members about who was communicating with who. Boundaries with friends about who was communicating with us, because we can't have any open gates.
Right.
Any because people are going to think, so we can't have that. So
now that y'all are married and y'all and you agreed that, okay, we're going to get past this, we're going to grow, what were some of the joys? Because now you're married, you want to know what you're prepared for, what you're not prepared for, what the joyous moments are that are in the union. Can you share us?
Yeah.
Did you get hit with, once you guys got in the sweet spot, did anything hit you? Because now you're on the same vibration.
Yeah.
And usually once you get there, you get those surprises that come along.
Even before the sweet spot, I know for me, one of the biggest joys was the kind of support that I got in understanding who I was, right? So men, we don't need love, we need respect.
Yes. Say that one more time for the people in the back.
Like, that's how we equate respect with love.
It's biblical.
Yeah, right, exactly. It absolutely is biblical. And so it ain't with us. And she respected me, and she respected my goals and desires. At that point, I never had a woman. Again, I was young, so I hadn't been with that many women in terms of a relationship. But I never had a woman respect my goals and desires from everything that I said I wanted to do. It blew me away. It is at that point that I became that bastion of masculinity, that bastion of success, that great man that I knew that I was, because I had that undergirding and that support that I didn't really realize I was lacking. So I finished my degree like that. Went and got my graduate degree directly after. Then became nationally celebrated in academics, right? When I, just all of these things, these goals that I wanted to have. I tell her all the time that she saved my life.
That's called the side effects of a good woman.
Yeah, no. I
mean, the side effects of a good woman.
Facts. And then side effects of the woman that you're supposed to be with.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so those were some sweet spots, but that's on an achievement level. But that's just the surface. Another sweet spot for me was having a woman that actually knew how to challenge me.
Yes.
Challenge me in a way that I didn't feel that it wasn't disrespectful,
Right.
but it held me accountable.
Right.
Listen, I was used to I was with smart women, smart ladies, but I could out debate them, I could out speak them, I could out articulate them. She didn't go for none of that.
Right.
Like, nah, bruh, chill out. You know what I'm saying?
See,
There
I like
is
that.
hope for women like me. Then.
No, I like that because I think the point of that, and I've said this before, you want a woman that can challenge you, not a woman who's challenging to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's not attacking you or being, disrespectful, but you can't figure her out. She's not the shallow side of the pool. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
And
I love that.
And I think that was part of the, if we kind of going away from the question but come right back to it, I think that was part of the growth process for us, because I would tell him, like, I understand that these are some of the things you feel like you have to do for me, but I don't really need you to do those for me, because that doesn't that's not what I'm looking for from you. Like, that's on that list of traditionalism things, like you have to make a certain amount of money to take care of me, to put me in this car and put me in this house. I'm like, that's sweet.
Hold on, wait.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's sweet. I'm like, that's sweet. But I said, I'm not
That was for the group.
Because let's be clear, group. Okay, if you're looking for a man to save you, to put you in the house and put you in the car, you're looking for the wrong person, or vice versa. I'm like, ideally, we make each other better. You looking for a partnership. Like, we're like, this is my husband, this is my partner. And I'm outside of business. I do, like, we make each other better. I'm like, every time, he talks about this. I cannot wait to be able to do. I said, yeah, I can't wait for you to do it too. I said, but understand, I'm not looking for that. Like, I totally, for years, and I can say this, right? For years, he would try to go buy me gifts. I said, please take that back.
Yeah.
Because I know this is on our list.
I'd be hot.
This is on our list.
Right.
I'm like, I don't need this. This is on our list of goals for this particular year. For this goal, I said, so you can take that back.
Yeah.
I'm like, because we're a team. I'm like,
Right.
I don't want you to equate our love for that.
May equate that to controlling, but that's staying on the course.
It's on
That's
the
holding
the
one
journey.
another
Yeah,
accountable.
you
It's holding us
them
accountable. Also, because I knew, because this is the thing. I didn't want to have him. To me, I'm like, that's a false type of what you can how you define manhood to you, like, or how do you find being a husband? That's false. I'm like, I'm telling you, I don't need it. So if you're doing that to give it to me for you, that's not a gift for
That's
me.
exactly what it was.
Exactly.
It was for
It's
me.
not. It was
for
for
my
you.
ego
And
and
I was
my
like,
pride.
for you could feel good. I said, but that does nothing
But
for me, because to me it's disturbing. I'm like, bro, that's not what I'm like. That's not what
That's
we
not what
this-
we want.
That's
What
not
I
what we
want
want.
is
We
this
headed
how
in
we trying
this
to get.
direction.
I'm like, no,
Yeah.
and I'm not even that. I'm like, it's like whatever it is. I'm like, whatever it is, the goal
Whatever
is. I'm
goal.
like, whatever. And our goal at the time was whatever it was. It wasn't anything but a house or a car. And like, it was like, it was, let's finish X, Y, and Z. Let's pay off this debt. You know what I'm saying? It was a community goal. The community goal for the bigger goal.
For the bigger, for the
And
larger
I
goal.
love the concept of that, because, I see all the time people say, I'm looking for my partner, I'm looking for relationship goals, but he has to have this, and And I think what you said is huge, because when we talk about, and we talked about toxic masculinity when I had the pleasure of being on your show, and you kind of dive into this concept of what a man is, and you're getting this from sources that know nothing about manhood.
Right.
Not only that, you've tailored yourself to this woman, so now this manhood that you've created won't fit anywhere else. So if I come home with this trinket, but we got a list, I don't see this as, oh my God, you bought me this necklace. No, you deviated from the goal, bro.
And it's not hard and fast, right? It's just more so like know who you're with.
Right.
Because I was like, no matter who, because I think the balance was of like knowing who I am, and I'm your wife, and I'm your bride, and you have to know me well enough to know that I'm not, that doesn't do anything for me. You know what I'm saying? I enjoy us getting to whatever that looks like. So I learned, or we're learning, like, there's some things that we had to learn in our relationship that I don't know. It's interesting, like the whole thing about cards. buying cards.
Oh yeah,
because I'm not a cards person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this
but
thing.
I love cards.
And he's like, but I had to acquiesce. I'm like, okay, he just wants to buy a card. But it's sweet that. But I was kind of like, baby, you don't have to do that for me. You can say
I love cards because I love words.
I'm a
word.
So I had to get to that place.
Right,
My head like, baby, that's
wordsmith.
$5. We could have did something else with that. You know. but I had to learn to adjust to it. But as long as it's not over the top, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? Because it does something for him.
Yeah.
So.
So let's talk about marriage.
Let's talk about it.
The two of you have what I would consider a successful marriage.
Okay.
Because you not just because of what you're doing, not just because of what you've done, but it seems to me that you're on the same page, right? And I think that's the concept of marriage. If you think about it, I go back to the garden. They had a great marriage until they were on a different page.
Okay.
Right.
Right.
So, what does marriage mean to you? That's the first part of the question. And the second part of the question, in answering that question, what are some of the myths or inaccuracies about marriage that you've had to kind of, kill amongst yourselves? And I'm asking this question because I want you to answer it for the people who are seeking either what you have or at least the concept of it.
Oh my, you got this one.
Okay, so part A. What does marriage mean to me? Number one, what it means. So I think it changed from year 1 to year 10, right? Or from year 1 to year 11 of us being together. Marriage, to me, isn't security. It's not security.
Wow.
Marriage to me is a privilege. It's a privilege. I know what Scripture says. The man shouldn't be alone. Right. Marry or burn. Right. But the numbers are what the numbers are. Right. You know what I'm saying? And so it's a privilege to be married in this world. Marriage to me is, I think that one of the myths that we had to, I guess, dispel. And we went into the marriage like this, being whole singularly before we could be whole together, right? You know what I'm saying? That's number one. Number two was the role of a man. I think that was a big one for me, the role of a man. When I talk to other folks who are looking to, God has been gracious enough to allow us to counsel some people as they go in to a covenant, into a union. And I always lead with, I ask the woman, what is a man to you? Now I don't ask the man. Then I ask him, okay, you heard what she described? Can you do that? Are you that? She may not need what you're offering or what you think. You know what I'm saying? So having that kind of conversation. Also understanding what control really looks like. Power struggle, right? That idea of them first few years before the power struggle, learning each other, because we got married fast. We got married within like 8 months. Okay. We met. I proposed like 6 weeks later, and then we got married 8-9 months later, right? Because what's the point in waiting when you know?
Yeah, we know.
We know. But we don't advise everybody to do that.
It may not be for everybody, but
but that was
us.
our route. You know what I'm saying? And so, and it came with some highs and some lows. Obviously, I think every marriage, every relationship does. But for me, those were the big ones. Those were the really, really big ones that I had to face my own idea of manhood, toxic masculinity, right? And then also where did I? And then thank you. I had to learn how to lead. I thought I was a leader. I wasn't. Right. When I first got into a marriage, I wasn't a leader, and that's the biggest thing that it has taught me was how to lead.
Right. Now, in learning that, because I think that's huge, was your ability to follow? Did it aid, in your opinion, from your perspective? Did it aid in his ability to lead, or did he have to get that down first before you were willing to follow?
So I don't know. So I think when we first started our marriage, I think we were co-owning a lot of responsibilities. And so it didn't feel like he was leading and I was following or anything like that. It just felt like we were in a groove. Like we were just trying to just get it together. Like we literally, we were like falling forward. Like, okay, let's do this, let's do that. And we were trying to figure it out. We really were trying to figure it out together. So it didn't really feel like one person, like Kalan was just leading and I was following, or I think it was more, in that establishment of, like he talked about earlier, the roles, like what was a man to me. We had to really, that you guys, y'all have no idea, that was the biggest one of the biggest hurdles, because it was, I realized I wasn't just dealing with his process of, or his thought process of how he should be my husband and lead me. I was going against generations of, like he said, of what he was told a man was. Even every time that we decided, you know, okay, well, we're good with this, someone would else come and whisper in his ear how he wasn't good for me. I'm like, no one else can tell you how to be my husband. And so I think I think we were sharing a lot of responsibilities, and the leadership, like I said, Kalan, he's very strong and resolute in just being present. And so I was like, as long as he is, you know, present, I could follow him anywhere. You know what I mean? I could follow him anywhere. But I just think that it never felt like I don't know how people traditionally define the leader, but it never felt like, felt like I was just blindly following anyone. You know what I mean? I feel like I never felt like I was blindly following him.
I think
you know what I'm saying? Like it just didn't follow a certain look. It didn't look a certain way.
But I think that is the true definition of submission.
Right.
Yes.
That what people think when people say submission, people think that women should fall on their knees and follow a man and be led and all of that. But I think submission is specifically about honoring and coming into an agreement on and following through with that agreement.
And I think a lot of times we, you know, the hard thing was to I'm not going to say explain. The hardest thing was for us to get on the same page about, you don't have to justify our walk to anybody because else. People were totally shocked by it. I'm like, you know, y'all started dating in February, y'all get engaged in April, you get married, and like people like, what is going on? Like something is, you know, everybody thought we had lost our mind. I'm like, but this is the thing. There was never requirements for those who are, you know, persons who worship the God of the Bible. There's no requirement on time.
Right.
You know, that was never written in there. And I think our traditionalism or the way that we have seen it play out in movies and how we heard people tell you how it's supposed to be, you get a date for at least a year.
Right. Yeah.
And then you have to be engaged for another 2 years. I'm like, where do y'all do this math? You know, like, how does this come up? And then you have to, I'm like, we didn't do any of that. I'm like, because ideally, if y'all really supposed to be together, y'all going to be working through that thing the whole time. The person I married is not the person that I am today. And he's not the person he was when I first married him. You're constantly growing and changing. It's not going to be the same. So saying, well, I need to figure out if we're going to get it all together. You might not. Some of the things that people change, they might not change the way you think they should change, but people grow and change constantly. We're evolving. We're constantly, and so you have to be committed to the person that they are today, not the person you think they're going to be later on. Potential. You can't marry potential. No.
And I think a lot of times people, you know, they push their own fears on you, right? Especially when it comes to time. You know, you're rushing things, blah, blah.
Oh, for sure.
Well, it's because I couldn't do it, so you shouldn't be able to do it, right? And the unfortunate thing is that a lot of times we'll allow people to influence the decisions that we were so steadfast on.
Yes.
Like, I know I want to do this.
Yeah.
And then someone starts talking to me, and then all of a sudden, now I'm not sure I want to do it anymore.
Yes.
And to me, I think that is the biggest contributor to the divorce rate.
Absolutely.
It's not so much that it's easy to get a divorce. It's just it's easy to talk about divorce. Marriage, on the other hand, is a very difficult topic to speak about because the only thing that people want to talk about is the wedding.
Right.
And marriage is so much more than that.
It's so much more than that. And it's so funny that you say that. I just, you know, the lady that does my nails, she's funny. Wisdom from Little Kelly. Well, she used to do my nails. She used to say marriages are hard to build, easy to break.
Yes.
And that's the truth.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's easy to break. It's easy to break. So you have to make a decision on, you know, who are the people that you're confiding in with when you're even walking through the relationship phase of just dating or courting or whatever you're doing. You have to make a decision on who are the people that you're going to listen to. Like, because some people, even the people that I was maybe close to before I met Kalan, a lot of those people were not included in my courtship of him. And at the same time, they weren't even included in the wedding. And you know, people really got upset. It was like, I can't believe you didn't invite someone. So I said, they never met him.
Right.
They never met him. They can't contribute anything to, they don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's anything to the conversation. I was like, you know, you start realizing the value of relationship currency and how many people you're going to actually take, you know, information from in order to build yourself up, making decisions. Like you said, a lot of people force their fear of what makes a good relationship on you, because they've never been, like to say, they weren't afforded opportunity to do it for whatever reason.
Right.
And I just think it's totally unhealthy to date or take advice from people who have never walked your walk.
Correct.
And or have walked your walk and had such a negative experience. That's the only thing they talk about is a negative experience.
They're traumatized.
Right.
They're
still-
traumatized.
Yeah, they're still in
Yeah.
the
They
pain.
PTSD. They
Yeah.
over
Now,
there.
I often talk to people about that particular topic, taking advice from people who have gone through what you've been through and they failed at it a few times. For example, Steve Harvey. I often say, I'd rather learn from somebody who failed and is able to speak knowledgeably about what they did to make that situation fail, as opposed to someone who failed and is still stuck on the failure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd rather learn from somebody who fell
Yeah.
and got back up.
Yeah,
And
'cause
I'm
it's
glad
cool.
I'm glad you brought that up, because another point is perspective.
Yeah.
Right.
I was not a fan of that book at all, because I
Yeah.
felt like it was very misogynistic.
Oh, yeah,
I felt like it was
yeah.
very sexist.
Steve's-
but then
Steve's
Steve's
book.
book.
Yeah.
But then I heard an interview where he said that book was written from the perspective of a father,
Yeah.
not a relationship
Yeah.
coach.
It was.
Okay.
So he was not speaking to his peers, he was speaking to his daughter.
Yeah.
And so then when you read the book from that lens, it's like, okay, this makes sense.
Yeah.
You need to hold on to the cookie for 90 days,
Absolutely.
all these other things,
At least.
because those are paternalistic,
Absolutely.
rules and things like that. So it's a different
Right.
perspective. So I say that to say, you made a great point. Who you take advice from,
Yeah.
not just the advice, but the vantage point of the advisor.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I always say, I love my mother more than life itself, but she is the wrong person to talk about who is good for her son.
Absolutely.
Because ain't nobody
Ain't
good
nobody
for her
really
son.
good. I
You
feel
know,
that way about
nobody
my
ever gonna
dad.
be-
Nobody
Yeah.
ever gonna be
Yeah.
good for her son.
Sound like
Nobody.
mama.
Yeah. So she's not a good person to get that particular
Yeah.
perspective
Yeah.
from,
Yeah.
because it's going to be skewed, and it's it's going
Yeah,
to
yeah.
there's that very intentional bias.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think an additional part of the advice piece is when people are giving you advice, oftentimes they feel like they have access to your relationship.
Correct.
Correct.
But no.
Say that again.
Correct.
So,
Listen.
But absolutely not.
Then they start volunteering
Exactly.
it
Then they
without
started
even.
volunteering,
And I'm
it,
not
and
asking
there's
for
a
it.
difference. There's
Listening
a
to it.
difference.
That was a big one.
Yeah, no, there's
Yeah.
a difference with people having I give you this piece of wisdom, and then they start, it's a difference with checking in and is
Yeah,
everything
but not-
okay?
Right.
But when you start trying to insert yourself into my situation, and I'm big on, even though I was slightly controlling in the beginning, I've never been the one that could be controlled, and that's
Right.
the quickest way for you to meet a different side of Kalan is when you insert yourself into my marriage. It's a wrap.
I'm kidding.
It's a wrap. You know what I'm saying? It really is a
But
wrap.
but it's so funny that you say that, because I think I probably was more like
Yeah, you were at first.
Protective.
You were at first,
Yeah.
'cause it took me a while to get there.
I'm
Yeah.
like,
It
no,
really did.
no, you need to back off
It
and
really
mind
did.
your business.
Yeah.
It really did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really did.
I'm like that. If I'm
And
I'm with you.
And
I'm not married to your parents.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not married to you. Whoever.
Yeah.
This is us.
And
This
I
is-
was
this is
never the
us.
one to seek advice from my parents, because I knew that it wasn't my parents that were doing that, right? It was other folks that I held in high regard.
Yeah.
Yes.
You
And
know.
usually those people they mean well.
They did.
But like we said, the experiences that they may have experiences is not our experiences.
Absolutely.
And I really do believe that you have to set the tone for your own marriage in
Yeah.
order for it to work. You really have to unlearn
Absolutely.
everything
Oh
that
my
you've been
gosh.
taught
Yep.
and relearn it through one another, because some men like a woman that know how to take control, because they want to know that if something happened to him, that baby got me.
Facts.
She's
Yeah.
going to make sure that we good. She's going to, I don't have to worry about that, and vice versa. So it's really good that you guys have that type of relationship and rapport with one another where you know when to be submissive, because the best leader knows how to follow best.
Absolutely.
So.
You guys have dropped a lot of gems this evening, and I appreciate you guys coming. I have one last question.
Let's do it.
And it is, what advice would you give the urban professional single ages 30 to 50?
Oh.
So I need y'all to talk right to my and just tell them what
You go
advice
first,
would you
you
give
go
them?
You go first?
Yeah, you go first. I have,
Oh.
because I probably have a lot.
Wow, that's a great question. What advice would we give the urban professional in our demographic? Be consistent with what it is that you want.
Consistency. Okay.
Be consistent with what it is you want. Let me get some context as it relates to relationships or advice. Period.
Whatever advice you have.
So good. Be consistent with whatever it is that you want. Right. Be fearless, like the generation behind us, after us, because they're fearless.
Yes, they are.
They are. Obviously, we have a little bit more wisdom to when to apply and how to apply that fearlessness. But be fearless. They see no finish line. They see no limits.
Yeah,
and that's what we need to do, right? Regarding a relationship, be fearless again in understanding who you are, right?
As an individual.
And as an individual.
Yes.
Right? And tap into the person that the Creator made you to be.
Okay.
I like that.
Right?
Okay.
Remember that just because you're an urban professional doesn't mean that that's all you are. We get so caught up because we were raised by baby boomers, so we got that baby boomer in the back of our heads, but we still know about how to be innovative and creative, obviously, because you guys have a phenomenal podcast.
Thank you.
But that whole that baby boomer foundation is like,
absolutely.
It's tugging. Nah, man, like really, really, really go after who you were called to be. I believe if you chase passion, profit will follow.
Yes.
Amen.
I agree.
Amen.
Yes,
I agree.
love
Well,
that.
you
That was
took
a
all the
good
good
nugget
ones.
right there.
well, no, I will say that you talked about consistency, but actually knowing your self-worth, is very important, especially now in relationships, in your professional career. Know your self-worth and don't settle. Right. A lot of times we make too many compromises, or we compromise things that we should never compromise out of fear. Like, well, if I don't do this now, then maybe the opportunity won't come again. If I don't do this now, maybe this person won't talk to me right now. And we push ourselves. A lot of times our biggest enemy when it comes to those situations is ourselves.
Right.
We will talk ourselves out of, down. You know what I'm saying? Like, we will talk ourselves into a corner. We'll compromise when it's unnecessary. And it's because you don't really know your self-worth or your value. Kalan mentioned it, being innovative, learning how to, seek out the things that you really are interested in doing, like to do, and you're good at, you know what I mean? Or seek out the things that you want to get more skilled in, you know what I mean? We have the University of YouTube. It's nothing that you can't learn.
I'm
you can learn it for free.
Listen.
The University of YouTube, listen, it's nothing you cannot learn. And a lot of times we limit ourselves, our potential, limit our potential for growth because we're so scared to, walk outside or call outside the lines because, like I said, the baby boomers in the back of our head are like, you only can do these things.
Right.
You only can be good in this lane and this lane one
because
at a time.
You're a woman.
Because you're a woman,
black man.
or because you're, you should only focus on these things. This is the time where we're seeing a resurgence of Renaissance where you can do a lot of things all at once and do them well.
Yes.
That whole conversation about being a jack of all trades and a master at one. That I see the wisdom in it, but I also see that there's a need. If you actually have more than one thing going on, then you also have an opportunity to actually bring someone along on a journey with you. That means you start hiring people, you start getting assistants, and you train other people up to help you carry the load. But you can do several things, and in relationships, well, go. And as it relates to relationship, again, knowing your self-worth. Don't compromise, stop settling. And if you make a decision of what your non-negotiables are, stop bending.
Right.
Your non-negotiables is your non-negotiables, and you don't have to keep explaining them to people. And now, mind you, if there's something that's extreme, and you might have to sit down and get some counseling about, but your non-negotiables are your non-negotiables. Period. And self-help is real, y'all. Get some help.
It is. Yeah. Wisdom without boundaries is bondage.
That's so good.
If you don't put wisdom in a context to where it really fits you, it can become some shackles. Right.
And the old folks say, you're just too smart for your own good.
Right.
You will talk
talk
yourself into
only
something.
if it's used appropriately.
Only if it's used appropriately. Even when you look at in physics, power is directional. Power and force is direct. You measure it because it goes a certain direction. So there has to be some boundaries, some context to the things that you understand, know, and learn. And so when you applying the wisdom of old, make sure that it actually fits what you're doing and who you are.
It's applicable.
If the context doesn't apply to you, then it's just words, and it can keep you bound.
Yeah,
I love it.
Oh, I love that too. I mean, as a former healthcare professional, I can remember someone telling me to put butter on a burn without context. And there was a time where that was appropriate because that's all you had.
Right.
Yes.
But that's no longer wise.
Absolutely.
Although it was at the time.
For
And
sure.
so a lot of times we use outdated and antiquated thought processes to deal with current day situations.
Absolutely.
That's what we've been taught.
Because that's what we've been taught. Yeah, it's like, I want to be a movie star. Okay, but get you a nursing degree just in case. Okay, that's not the same thing.
It's not the same. What
are you talking about?
Okay,
Like,
so why am
apples
I
to
becoming a
oranges.
nurse now?
Right.
Because
Yeah.
I'm really good over here, but you're telling me to do this because it's the fear that's talking, right?
fear,
I really just want you to have some stability. I'm like, but I need you to believe in me over here.
Over here.
Right.
Like, let's me invest in over here.
One last thing for me. Please do not wait, where y'all at? Hold on, come here. Do not apologize for being dope.
Don't apologize for being dope.
Yeah.
Don't
Apologetic
apologize for
and dope.
being dope.
Yeah.
If you're great at 75 things, be great at 75
Be great
things.
at
And you know,
75 things.
I get that a lot. When she was talking about doing everything, I try to do everything I can put my hands on.
I mean,
We're made by the creator who created everything.
And I really
And he
believe that you
wouldn't give
can
it to
create
you
your
if he didn't
reality,
think
not
you could handle
just in life, but in your marriage as
yeah,
well.
for sure. You
set the tone.
I think a lot of people are just that we have to, especially our generation, we have to move past some of the things our parents taught us because they taught us what they knew. You know what I mean? It was necessity at the time because their parents came from a place that they didn't have opportunity. So, of course, they pushed opportunity on our parents, and it was important for them to get their educations and get that stability that came from that one job that you stay at for 35 years or 45 years or 55 years.
I don't want no gold plated Seiko.
And every anniversary, every 5 to 10 years, you get that little glass.
Yeah,
right, but now we're in a sandwich because we're realizing we have unlimited potential because we have all these avenues in front of us that we're seeing people do it and they're doing it well. I'm like, oh, I really do like this. You know, I really, and so I think you have to, as an innovative, in the innovative society we're in, you have to take advantage of all the things that are coming at you, especially if you have interest. If that fire is lit in you, you need to go after it.
So speaking of fires, how do y'all keep the fire burning?
Because I'm a freak.
Yes, you are.
No.
That's inappropriate, Kaylin.
No, it ain't
I'm
appropriate.
kidding. No,
They
one thing I
married.
know.
We married.
Yes, one thing I know.
What? How do we keep the fire burnt? Well, I think that we know what we like.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? We know what each other like. And
communication.
so I think one of the being married, you realize, like I think you mentioned it before. When somebody over here mentioned it, you can't apply what you've done in the past to the person that you're with.
Right.
You have to learn the person that you're with. And you have to learn the ins and outs of that person, what makes them laugh, what makes them smile, what they're comfortable with. And you have to adjust for that person. Ideally, you wouldn't have to if it was just you and them, only you and them.
Right.
But most of us are coming into a situation with a history.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That
Absolutely.
cannot be erased. Sometimes your memory bank will not get swiped clean.
Right.
So you can't bring that to the table and think that's going to make you the man or the woman because I know I can. No, that doesn't work. You have to figure out what works for that person.
Right.
So that's how we and
Come
then
on,
we
Kira.
and we like to travel.
We love to travel.
yeah.
We like
love-
the experience. So
and
that helps. I mean, I don't know if that means
That
sounds
keeps
weird.
it spicy.
It does keep it spicy.
We like,
Ain't nothing like doing it in
New
a new
environment.
room.
Yeah. In a new room.
and I know you're about to say it. You better not say it.
I
You
know.
better
I'm
not
looking
say
at it. Like, don't go too far, Kaylin.
Don't go too far.
but you know what? But that right there, we have fun.
Fun,
Yeah.
yes.
We take the seriousness
your
out of
best
it. We can
friend.
be intimate and we
Yeah.
bust out laughing.
Right.
Yeah.
No, for sure.
Because it's funny. Like
it
we
is
have
funny.
a good time. Not that she's funny. I may make us weird. What was that, boy? You know what I mean?
Like,
Like
that
it's
was weird.
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
it's funny.
Yeah.
Like we have a good time. It's
That's
not so
amazing.
But
stoic.
that's it. You
You
have to
know.
lay it all out.
No, for sure. I
Yeah.
mean, and it's a keeping the flame alive. I mean, keeping that flame lit. I don't know. I just
and then
I don't know.
And then for us, we had to.
at you looking at
We understand.
So many
we're at the
things,
po-
y'all,
we're at
so
the-
many
yeah,
things.
no, we're at the point now where the intellectual stimulation is what is needed.
Okay.
Yes.
You know, because our bodies. Listen, we getting up in age. Bodies. You know, I
We're not-
get
we're
in the
not
gym.
getting up
I
in
know we're not
age
getting up in
now,
age, but
let's
you know, listen, 3 days in the gym back when I was 25 is all I needed.
Right.
Now I need all 7, and then a diet, and then you know what I'm saying. And so it's not necessarily about the physical anymore. It's we've gone past that, and
Yeah.
there's such an emotional
Yeah.
and a
Yeah.
spiritual
Oh,
connection
for sure.
that we're always ready.
Yeah, okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
How does trust feed into that? Because I'll tell you one of my challenges, and I'll be transparent. My pride sometimes kind of gets in the way. Where I want to have fun, and I want to have that playful relationship, but then you said something, and I'm in my feelings.
Right.
'Cause I can't believe you said that to me.
Right.
So I've witnessed the two of you either on your show or just being in your presence, and you have a very playful, fun relationship. How does trust play into that your ability to do that and not have to have fear that someone's going to go too far.
Because I'm crazy.
Okay.
No, I'm just playing. I'm just playing. No, we've been through the fire.
Yeah, we've been through some things, y'all.
Like,
we've been through some.
We've been the dark black, the midnight, the darkness.
I mean, when
the obsidian, you know what I mean?
When
like,
you have, when y'all have to you go through some situations where you have nothing but one another.
Yeah.
When y'all have been at the lowest place, you know what I mean, and you know that y'all have experienced some beautiful highs, but y'all have had to walk through some real low valleys. You learn to appreciate the fullness of the person, or the whole person, and you're able to look past certain things. Like, I'm not about to argue with you or be upset with you about that one thing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I have to let that go because I know you got. You know what I'm saying? You got me.
Right.
You my dude.
Right. Facts. And a big thing. That's right. I'm your dude. Already. And a big thing about it is we spend a lot of time. We probably spend 22 hours a day together.
We spend a lot of time together. And I think people used to think that was crazy.
And people used to clown.
They were like, y'all spend so much time together. I'm like, well, I mean, we not doing
that.
And
I would cut off home, but all right, cuz, it's a wrap.
I mean, because we like
cool. But this is how me and my wife are rocking, and now they come back and say, yo, I admire it. So with that time that we've put in, even in the dark places, I know her. Yeah. I don't know women. I know my woman.
Right.
Dwell with knowledge.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Dwell with knowledge. Right. She don't know men. She knows
Kalan.
her man. She knows Kalan. And so we spent so much time together.
And I think that was by design, because I mean, because some of the things, some of the experiences we've had, it was almost as necessity made it such that I'm like, so I think it was God's design that we had to walk through certain things. We could not necessarily be separated, and I appreciate that because I think it rolls over to even how we raise our kids, because a lot of times, and I totally don't get this, but a lot of times people complain about having to be like, oh my, I just need a break for my kids. I'm like, why? Like they only gonna be this age once, and I'm gonna. But it's like but because I think the way we flow, it helped us as we're raising our kids, because we had to spend so much time together. So we appreciate that time is really a commodity too. You can't get back.
Need that time together. Y'all got married so fast.
Mind you, here it is 11 years later.
You got married right on time.
Yeah, we
like, dang, Tony, dang.
But it's funny you say that because I even was like, after we got married, was it too fast?
Yeah, and I'm like,
was
but
it too fast?
No, apparently not.
I'm like, and it works, and I'm like, it works.
Our story.
It's our story, and I think that we still would have been together if we dated. I mean, we still would be together a long time if we dated longer than what we did. I think that we allowed ourselves time to grow up together, whether we were being in our marriage or not. I think that's what people are waiting for when they're dating for a long time. Like, I just want to see how it evolves, and I want to see how this person
But it never stops evolving.
It never stops evolving, so it works.
And neither one of us have a quitting spirit.
Oh no, we don't quit.
You can't have a quit.
About nothing.
Oh Lord.
We push.
She's a challenger like you.
Yeah. Neither one of us have.
I'm gonna work until it's. I'm gonna work. No, I'm not. And he's more competitive than I am.
Yeah,
I'm just a finisher.
Okay.
So if I start something, I'm gonna finish it.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna finish it.
Okay.
And then if she gonna finish, then you ain't gonna finish better than me. So what's happening?
I know.
Right. So I'm just like, this is the task. I got it.
Right. And so, but it works. It works.
Yeah.
It definitely works.
I love it.
I love it. I love you, baby.
Oh, I love you too.
Oh.
One day,
Well, thank you guys.
Y'all
Thank
was
you guys
so
for
fun.
coming and hanging out with us. Let the people know how to reach or find you or where. I think you guys already said it.
Yeah, well, you can
Say it
follow me.
again.
You can follow me at Senor Wapo 713. That's SENORGUAPO on all social media outlets. Go to my website, check out what we have going on. And my baby.
And you can follow me on the Instagram at the Modern Day Cindy. That's Cindy with an I, not a Y. That's CINDI. Follow me.
So I would say that this is one of my high points. I'm really excited to have you guys here.
Oh, we're
I'm still
happy to be
excited. And I
here.
thank y'all
Yay.
for coming.
Thank you for
And Kalan, I appreciate you for always pushing me and
Already.
being a part of the plan. Kalan always sends me little encouraging texts and ideas for topics and things.
That sounds about right.
I always have my brother in my pocket. So
Already.
I
You know it.
appreciate you and thank you guys for coming out again. We're gonna do this again in 2 weeks.
Yes,
weeks.
yes, see you
Yes.
in 2 weeks.
Same bad channel, same bad time.
I want you to know all I wore was a t-shirt and some jeans because I knew Kalan was going to come. because he always dressed to the nines.
But he
always got his-
gave us
chill.
I know, but look at
casual today.
It's chill.
Yeah, but
It's
it's
all like model like chill.
Right.
well.
Oh, you to New
he
York.
is
Walk
one of the
around
hottest
look like he's
stylists
stepping
in
off,
Houston.
you know.
Yeah.
Okay. Listen, if you're looking for a stylist, holla
There
at
you
your
go.
boy.
Hey.
Holla at
He's
your
good.
boy.
I might need you to do a little work.
Come talk to me, kinfolk.
Yeah, let's do
Let's do
something.
it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys again, and thank you all for tuning in. Everybody,
fun,
you can
yo.
find us at MixNSingle. Please go subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you are single and between the ages of 30 and 50, you can join our Facebook group, which is MixNSingle, and it has the TM behind it. You can find our business page at MixNSingle Events on Facebook. We're at www.MixNSingleEvents.com. This Sunday, we'll be having a singles picnic, and we hope to see you come out. That's on Eventbrite. Come and find us and hang with us. You can hang with us. You can hang
And if
with
we
us.
tell you to turn to your neighbor, you better do it.
You better turn.
Don't miss the opportunity. Don't miss
Turn
it.
to your
You
neighbor.
better dress the way you feel in your
Better
skirt.
That's
Yes,
right.
yes,
That's right. So come on out. Come join us. And we appreciate you guys tuning in. And we'll see y'all next time.
Right.